Hello, everybody. This is Kxo Radio, and we have our good friend and the voice of Imperial Valley football, Mickey Dale. And we're going to have a football update, Mickey. So take it away.
Sounds good. We're back to Friday Night Lights. It's been a while since last November that we were doing games on and on the channel and on kxoradio.com. So we're looking forward to it. Tomorrow night we'll be at home, which would be nice. And this will be the 15th year straight on the radio and the internet. I think I added it up, but it's like 146 games in a row that have been on Friday nights. Well, Imperial football is played, excluding the COVID years, because you know how those went. But we were doing games when Robert Thomas was playing in Imperial and went on to play at UCLA and in the NFL. And then my son and I did all the games that Royce Freeman played at Imperial at a level. And of course, he went to Oregon and set records there with the Pac-12. Now it's Cowboys. It's kind of fun to be able to see him and think back of those glory years with the Tigers when Royce was playing.
Wow, Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore, does it?
No, and it used to be such a terrific conference, and now it's down to two, and they're not playing anybody that we recognize from the Pac-12 or Pac-8 or Pac-10. The way it's been, things have really changed on the West Coast.
Well, yeah, and you guys had some fun. Royce Freeman, what a local legend.
Yeah, and to play and there would be something, and my son and I talked about it very many times coming back from games and stuff, that there would be every game there would be something that you would see him do and you were just amazed at it. He would break out of multiple tackles. There were times that their defense would have angles on him to go out of bounds. He wouldn't go down, and it just was marvelous to watch him. And then to be there when he set the record for rushing yards and CIF and for scoring touchdowns, it was really an exciting time. And then to watch him play at Oregon and then set all those records in the Pac-12 and scoring and stuff at Oregon, and then to watch him now in the NFL and with the Dallas Cowboys. He's got some carries last week and carried for 4.6 yards a carry, which is outstanding in the NFL. So looking for great things and such a nice young man as well.
Well, and I remember the excitement that you guys brought to those broadcasts. And I had the task of having to talk to the other athletic directors, and even the mention of his name used to make them tear up because they knew what was in store for them.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone that we played against, they knew that they were going up against someone really, really good. And then Royce also, and he'll point out that he had such good talent around him. He had a quarterback, he had Chris Carter, he had Dejon Staten as lead receiver then, and then the line with Devin Pumphrey and others on there. It was just amazing to watch that whole nucleus of team do so well that year. And it was every game something that would be exciting, and it makes it great for an announcer.
Oh, absolutely. And this year your cohort is once again
George Grijalva, and we would go back to high school sports together. It was funny. I was in Carroll last week, I think, on the phone, and I was saying that George and I go back to freshman football, where I was at that time they called it split in, and they didn't call it wide receiver. So I was a split in. I would bring plays in and play. The person who brought the every other play was George.
Well, and George he's a wonderful color guy, and he brings a unique perspective to the game. And if you're an Imperial Valley Tiger fan, you're going to love his take on things.
Oh, yeah. And he has such a vast knowledge of these kids that are playing now that he has watched and coached growing up. And that is always cool. Many of them in baseball and they coached and then to be able to see them play now at the varsity level in high school football, it just makes it that much more for us.
Well, and being an old coach, you always take pride in your players, no matter where they go and what they do in life.
Right. And we like watching how kids that have played at Imperial have gone on to play college. And I've got several that we'll mention in a moment that are now playing at the college level. And that's pretty exciting. One of them is his grandson who plays at Adams State, Seth Shaw. And so he'll go off after the football games on Friday night, race over to Alamosa, Colorado to watch Seth play, and then come back and we talk about it the next week.
How cool is that? Before we get on to those players, you want to talk about what Carroll's going to be doing Thursday night?
Well, Thursday night, they'll be playing on, it'll be Thursday night lights for Carroll because the Southwest Eagles, I think they're visiting the Hopeville on Thursday night. That'll be also live on KXO Radio and then on KXORadio.com and also on the YouTube channel. And that ought to be an exciting game. Southwest struggled at the beginning of the season last year, got a couple of wins under their belt, got better as the season went on. And then Hopeville, the second half of last season, they were just lights out. So it ought to be an exciting game. John Drift will be calling on Thursday night.
Well, it really will be. And catching Hopeville early may not be a good thing for Southwest.
No, and it's kind of because George and I pointed it out last year. It was a pretty close game with Hopeville and Imperial last year, but they changed quarterbacks after the Imperial game. Hopeville did. And they became more of a passing team, and man, they were lights out. So I don't know what would have happened if we would have faced them at the end of the season like we did at the beginning of the season. It would have been pretty interesting.
Well, the sky would have been falling in Imperial.
Oh, it would have, yeah. The rivalries go deep in Imperial. George and I remember that against Hopeville and some of the players we played against years ago. And rivalry still stays in your mind for old timers like us.
Yeah, speaking of old timers, John Driffel, he's the statistician to the stars.
Is he? Okay.
And he is, and he.
I watch and see the notes that he takes, and yeah, I'm impressed with it.
Well, it is, and having to play off of Carroll is not the easiest thing in the world. And they have a good time. They have a good time, and they make it entertaining. And they can make it entertaining when the score is 40-0, one way or the other.
Right. That's not easy for an announcer, believe me. The first game I ever did was for KXO when they were doing the IBC Arab football team. This is back in 1978 at the end of it. And I kept telling the man at KXO when I was working there before that I'd really like to try to call game on the radio. And so I went with them over to Yuma, and IBC was playing Arizona Western College. And I was just going to watch the game, which I did. And then at halftime, Gordon Belson, who was doing the games at the time, doing play-by-play, just turned to me and said, okay, you're doing the second half. And at first, like, are you kidding me? I've just been watching this game. So I just started doing it and try to, I've been in my mind thinking what I would say if I ever got the opportunity. So it's like, here's my shot. I better do something. And IBC was down by, 4 or 5 touchdowns. They just weren't having a good game at all. But I guess I did fairly well because the next year Gordon turned IBC football over to me. And then I just started my career in radio doing football.
Wow. As the years pass, and that's the beauty of you football guys. You can, people may think this is scripted, and it certainly isn't.
No,
it's not. And nor are those high school football games. You have to be able to react and talk and address various things as they come up.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't too is if we don't say something for just seconds at a time, people are going to say, what was that dead air that was there? So you have to talk, like you said, you have to talk literally all the time. And the only breaks you get in a 3 or 3.5 hour broadcast is during commercials. And that's not very long, to recap and do things.
One thing that we do with the KXO YouTube channel, when we do these games live, the chat is active. And some of those fans are very demanding. And it's fun. It's fun to keep them engaged, and it's fun to encourage them to tell us what we need to be doing. And I promise you, Mickey, they tell us what we need to be doing.
Well, good. I'm glad, and I'd love to hear it. And I wished I had time to be able to look at it during the game. But while John does the stats as the color man, I do the stats as the play-by-play. My mind is racing at 100 miles an hour game. So I get chances at times to look at other scores, like when you send them to us, which we appreciate, and I'll look at those and I'll mention to George, we'll come out of the commercial break, you're going to do the scores, and so we try to get that during the commercial break so we can get ourselves going, and it's kind of fun, though, to be able to do that and be able to pull out a live broadcast and then be proud of what you did because you nailed it as good as you could do. And that's about as big a rush as I can get.
Well, you know, a bit of the history with KXO, I think it was 2001 when I approached Carol and I said, hey, I think we could run a live scoreboard on the website. And he said, if you want to do it. So we set out to do that, but that was back when we had to talk to those ADs on the phone. So
And
the
that's
phone
sometimes
was,
it's not easy.
well, particularly when an AD gets behind. You know, he may not even want to talk to you. So, and I forget, Mickey, I think we would be doing upwards to 15 games, but when KXO started doing it, Max Preps wasn't around. I mean, nobody was around. So we would get
Right.
these floods of people looking for high school scores all across the country, crashing our
Yeah.
servers.
I think it's a great service that you do on that because I remember as a kid, we didn't have any of that stuff. And if you didn't hear the scores at the end of the football game on the radio, and that's if they got scores from other areas too, that you had to wait till the next day for the newspaper to come out at noon to be able to see what the scores were. And so to be able to look at them in real time is a great service to the fans of Imperial Valley and everywhere else, really.
Well, it's not only the fans, it's the kids. You know, the reason we do all this is for those kids. You know, those kids are out there sweating in the summertime to provide us this entertainment. We need to
Right.
support them as much as we do. And
Right.
we've got a great group of athletic directors, and they really understand and they care. And now they help me. And with text, it's a lot easier than it used to be. But they want scores back. So not only are we collecting scores for the website, we're also sending them scores and finding out games all across the region so they can have updates on what they might be in store for next week. And it's a lot of fun, but it is a madhouse, but it's not as big a madhouse as what you guys are doing live at the game.
Well, we're doing a lot at the time, but then, like I said, it's the same thing when we can look at a commercial break and look at our phones and get a text from you of an updated score. And then we can talk about it coming out, and that just makes it more exciting. And, you know, when I worked at KXO years ago, and we were the flagship station for everything at KMPC, which was UCLA football, basketball, and California Angel baseball then. And I would sit at the board putting the local commercials in during the game, but I would listen how the announcers announced the football games. And I thought, you know, I want to have commercial breaks go in like they do on the games. Also the Rams, remember they did the Rams. And I would listen to how they did that and how they incorporated scores of other places. And for me as a listener, it was outstanding. I could keep track of what things were at the same time. And now with texting and with the World Wide Web, boy, there's so many possibilities that we can do. And this right here we're doing right now is one of them.
Well, yeah, we're doing this for a service appreciation for you, the fans that are come to the game, the players, and just it's a lot of teamwork, and we're happy to do it.
Well, we appreciate everything you do on your end, and we try to hold up our end.
Well, why don't you give us you're going to talk about some of those players that used to be Imperial Tigers playing.
Yeah, there's quite a few players that have played in the last few years at Imperial that have gone on to play into college. I mentioned Seth Shaw. He's at Adams State University. It's in Alamosa, Colorado. And there's a few other players from Imperial that are there as well. Ethan Reeves, who played for the Tiger varsity last year, is a freshman at Adams State this year. So that's going to be exciting to find out how he does. And Aiden Shields from a couple of years ago is playing at Adams State. And so is Zach Ray. And all three of those players last year made big impacts with Adams State. So it's exciting to see that. Prior to this past year in the letters of intent, there was Victor Valenzuela and Hector at Quincy University in Division II ball. And then one player we said so many times over the last 3 years and that is Joe Campos. He has gone on to Quincy University in Illinois. Kind of keep an eye on what he does and bring it to our listeners on Friday night. And also Joe Bliss. He was a breaking kicker, place kicker. His field goal set several records at Imperial High School. He's now going to be at Western New Mexico University. And ironically, they'll be playing Adams State in the opening game this season, September 7th. And then one other player, Sasaka, is at the University of Laverne. and then Andres Castro and Devin Meza at Ottawa University in Surprise, Arizona. So, yeah, a lot of players that have played in Imperial that if you've listened to our games, you have heard their names many times, are going on to the college ranks. That's kind of exciting for us.
Well, it is exciting, and there's a let's just say an elephant in the room that this year we're going to be dealing with. The California legislature passed a bill that football in California will start due to heat concerns whenever the governing parties decide it's safe to start. And we don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I was talking to Imperial's head coach David Shaw this week, and I said, "Now what is the deal with this whole heat thing?" And he said, "I really don't know." I said, "Is it a meter?" He said, "There's a meter, and they factor in the temperature, the air temperature, both humidity and other factors, and you have to be below a certain limit before you can start the game." So when we come out, with Carol and John tomorrow night for the Southwest Holville game, they'll find out if they're going to start on time or if it's going to be delayed a little bit. Same with us on Friday. Although the temperatures Thursday and Friday are a little bit cooler than it was earlier in the week. So hopefully we'll be okay. But still, when you're over 100 degrees and close to 110 at game time, it'll be interesting to see if we start on time or not.
Well, particularly these athletes that were practicing in 115 degrees in the afternoons. And going back,
Go ahead.
Going back in my history when I was a child athlete in Phoenix in the summertime, they wouldn't let us drink water, but they gave us salt tablets.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we survived.
Yeah, we survived. Yeah, it wasn't good. But what I was going to point out too is if you walk outside right now in the middle of the day, it's pretty warm. Now put on all that equipment they have, the helmet, shoulder pads, and everything that the football players wear, and all of a sudden the temperatures really get up there. And they're doing this, of course, for the athletes to make sure to keep them safe. And I'm all for that.
No, absolutely. If it saves one life in California or a heat stroke of a child, it's wonderful. So, Mickey, I want to thank you. Our audience wants to thank you. We're looking forward to Friday night lights with you and George, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We have West Hills coming in. They're from Santee. We played up there last year, 7-0 at the half, and a couple of missed tackles from the half. We got beat 14-7. So this will be the sixth meeting between the two schools. West Hills has a 2-3 lead, but the interesting thing is, as of those 5 games, the home team has won all of them. Last year we were up, so hopefully we'll be able to keep that string going and even this up at 3-3 with the victory on Friday night. We're sure looking forward to it.
Well, last year I remember it was a nail biter, and it was a great way to start the season.
It was. And if you've ever been to West Hills High School, their artificial turf is two-tone blue. So it takes a few plays to get used to light blue to dark blue, the light blue to dark blue up there on the west side of Santee. So we'll get to a regular turf, which will probably be the only game they'll play all year on real, which is kind of interesting too. So it'll be an interesting game on Friday night.
Well, we're looking forward to it. And Mickey, I want to wish you and George a wonderful year, and we're going to bring it to everybody.
Thank you. Look forward to you again.
All right. This has been KXO Radio AM 1230.